So I found our next guest on Instagram, and I was so inspired by Julia Linn that I had to invite her to the podcast and find out what her secrets are to transforming her body from sick to healthy. Now, Julia is a 66-year-old bodybuilder and online coach. And when she was only 11 years old, she had to deal with diabetes, which caused kidney failure, heart disease, retinopathy, which is diabetic blindness, and nerve damage. And her doctors told her she wasn't even expected to live to 40. But then when she turned 34, she had a double organ transplant, which cured the diabetes and gave her a working kidney. Now, 14 years later, when she was 48, Julia needed to have a triple cardiac bypass as her heart disease got worse. And then 2 years later, she had to remove her thyroid. So that's a lot for the first half of life. And actually, there's a lot more that I haven't included in this intro, but we're going to talk about later. But when she hit the 30th anniversary of her life-saving transplant, she decided that she had to honor her organ donor, Gina, by getting into the best shape of her life. And her goal was optimal health, not weight loss. And she wanted the energy to continue living her dreams and reaching her goals. And her true motivation was that amazing and this tremendous gratitude for the gift of life. And Julia wasn't going to waste one more minute of her life. So she started a fitness program as an out of shape 62-year-old. And then within 2 years, she was competing on stage in 2 NPC Bikini Masters bodybuilding competitions, where she came in first and third. And Julia remembers the days in the ICU when she didn't even know if she was ever going to go home. So for her to be able to lift weights and feel strong and alive and energetic is literally the ultimate gift that she wants to share with Queenagers. And I love this term that she came up with for women over 50, Queenagers. It's just brilliant. And Julia now is certified by the International Sports Sciences Association, the ISSA, as a personal trainer. And Julia is a true inspiration and wants all women to know that if she can do it, they can do it too. And her goal is to really help women in their power decades to understand how to get in the best shape of their life. So without further ado, let's welcome Julia Linn. Welcome.
Thank you, Zora. Thank you so much. That was a wonderful introduction.
Oh, there's so much more to it, which I'm excited to dive in. But you're totally rocking it on Instagram as Dolphinine with nearly 150,000 followers and a totally engaged audience. So before we dive into your background, how did you even explode on this scene?
Wow, it was totally unexpected. When I started working out, I made that decision to get fit. I had several different coaches, and one of my coaches, I would send pictures every week and post them on Instagram in a private account. So she could look at them, I could look at them. And as I got to know more women in my age group that were into fitness, and they found out my story, they said, Julia, you need to make this public. And I used to live in Saudi Arabia, and I have a lot of people there that I love, a lot of students, a lot of families. And I thought, in a bikini, and I was just thinking, I might offend people by showing these pictures. But then I thought, no, this is who I am. So I made it public, taking out some pictures that, I didn't want to actually have in the public. And it just exploded. And at the shows, I would meet people, they'd hear my story, they'd start following me. And several posts went viral, like almost 2 million hits. And the issue with that is that then people take your picture and use your picture to promote their products that you've never heard of and you've never done. But it was just, we're in that information age, and it's a very visceral feeling when you see transformation like I had, out of shape 62-year-old to like buff bodybuilder at 64, 5, 6. and people respond to that. And there's so many women in our age group that think life is over. They're my loves. They're my dolphinistas, I call them. They're the ones that follow me, and it gives them hope and motivation. And who doesn't want to spread that? So it's fantastic that it really kind of blew up.
Oh, I'm so glad. And I happened to fall on that as well as one of your dolphinistas. And I just was amazed. You know, I'm 53, and people who follow Hack My Age, they're in their 40s and 50s. And so we look at people in their 60s and 70s to be inspired by, because the stereotypes that we have in the Western world are just so negative. So when we see people really doing amazing things, not only amazing things, but just looking good and feeling good and having that energy and disrupting those stereotypes, we follow and we were attracted. And then we go, well, what did you do? Because when I'm with, like, at your age, I want to be as great as you are. So I commend you for posting and taking that risk and inspiring. But I didn't know until I read your book, your real life story. And, you know, I just see these befores and afters and go, oh, this is great. It's inspirational. But when I read your book, I was blown away, and I didn't realize how many obstacles that you had in life. And you explained that you found your why, and you found your motivation to get into shape despite all of this obstacles. And you always say that this is one of the most important parts of transforming yourself. So, you know, maybe tell us a little bit. I'm not sure if we should go into the book now, but if you want to, you can, and about your life story and how you overcame those obstacles. But really, how did you find your why? Like, was it an epiphany? Was it a light bulb moment? Was it gradual?
Wow. Yeah, I think it was all of those things. I think I was just moving towards a destiny that I had, like we all are. And my very short history is I was diagnosed as a diabetic at 11. By the age of 27, I had all the complications that that we all hear about, nerve damage, blindness, heart disease, kidneys failing. So at 34, my doctors were not actually convinced I was going to make 40 if we didn't do something drastic. Dialysis wasn't going to extend my life. It was actually going to shorten it. So I got a double organ transplant. It was very experimental. It cured the diabetes, gave me a working kidney. And up until that point, I had had a lot of loss in my life. A young sister that died of cancer at 6. I was 9. The man I thought I was going to marry got killed in a hit and run when I was 19. I mean, so I think that I just kept going. It was like I could find it in me to just keep going. And the gratitude I had for life after this transplant is the fuel. That's my why. It's just like, I wasn't supposed to be on the planet this long. Honestly, I used to tell my husband, I used to look around at women in our circle and thinking, gee, I wonder if she would be good for Paul when I'm gone. I mean, I really didn't think I was going to live to be, even after the transplant, I was waiting for that other shoe to drop. It's like, do I really have more years? And here I am 66, and I can go in the gym and I can lift weights. That's like so frigging amazing to me. I just want to shout it from the rooftops and tell other women, don't let menopause, don't let being overweight, don't let this sense that you're not worthy stop you from living your best life, because now are your power decades. This is where we've got wisdom, experience. We're so powerful. And that's why I really think women in our age group are invisible in society. We're kind of second class. We're pushed down because we are powerful. And other powers want to push it down and squash us because we're a force to be reckoned with, So that's really my message is you can get through anything. You really can. And women are so resilient and so powerful, so strong. We take care of everybody else but ourselves. And I think in menopause, that's when you hit the wall and you're like, your body changes, you're eating the same things, but you're putting on all this weight, you get hot flashes, you feel like crap. And so now you're forgotten. It's like, well, most doctors say, well, you just have to live with it. That's just not true. It's not true.
Yeah, it's so hard to believe that when an authority figure like a doctor is telling you that, and they know a lot more about medicine than you do, but you know your body as well a little bit more than they do in that sense. And I appreciate, yeah, we sometimes have to question the doctor, and not, maybe they're right, maybe they're wrong, I don't know, but we can't put all of our faith in just one person, and that person's just there to help you. It's not like they know either, but they're there. So you were destined to die early, and it's incredible what you've overcome since childhood. And as a gerontologist, you know, I mentioned this to you earlier, that we look at the whole life course when we're trying to figure out how people are aging and why they get certain diseases. And you are set up with a lot of adverse childhood experiences to be really sick. And you did get sick, but you overcame it. And despite, you know, you had it was family of four, then you lost one, and then you got two more brothers, and it's a lot of kids around, and a mother who wasn't emotionally there for you, as I read from your book. And there's just, it's hard. So when you had this, you had this moment where you wanted to honor Gina, your organ donor, and that sort of kicked things in and motivated you to get to a transformation, let's say. But how was it, like a one-day event? I want to look at first that epiphany, like as a motivation. Was that one day event in that sense, or you thought about it and said, how can I honor Gina? And then this came up. Where did that come from?
Yeah. So my husband and I had a very busy life, I would say, for the last 10 or 15 years. We've moved a lot. We've, you know, for opportunities. I was a university professor and also a freelance artist, and we just moved a lot. We were adventuresome, and I got a job offer in Saudi Arabia, and then I lived in Mexico and taught there as well, and we lived in Italy for a while, and I was so enjoying my life. I was just living my best life. And when we got to Mexico, I took a just stock of where I was in my life. I was 62, and my husband and I often talk about the organ transplant because he was there through everything. We got married 2 years before I had it. And we often just, it brings tears. We cry together about what a miracle it was. And so we were living in Mexico, and it occurred to me in 2 more years, it'd be my 30th anniversary. And I just thought, I got to do something. I have to express this joy. And it wasn't like I wasn't unhealthy, but I was an out of shape 62-year-old, you know. I exercised, I walked 2 to 3 miles a day. I ate healthy, whatever that means. And I just needed to dial it. I needed to dial it up and really do the work to see what this body was capable of after 30 years of having an organ transplant. And I started transforming immediately, losing fat, gaining muscle, feeling fantastic. And I just never stopped. I wanted more and more and more. It was actually a little bit addicting. It was like not going to the gym is kind of painful. I love feeling my body work because for years, for decades, I would do everything right. Even as a young diabetic, I was on the cutting edge of all the diabetes research. I bought the first glucometer. I wore the first insulin pump. I did multiple shots, 6 a day. Everything I tried, and it never worked. It never made me feel better. I never got better results. And then the transplant, the diabetes is gone. And at 62, I started lifting weights. Everything I did brought me results. It was like, it was like winning the lottery on every level, spiritual, mental, emotional, physical. It was astounding to me. And I just couldn't hold that joy and gratitude in where I wanted other women to know. And here's a little bit of the bias that doctors have. And I love doctors and the health field because they saved my life, as well as nurses. I love nurses too. They do a lot of work. But doctors don't see women like me fit at 66. I'm a rarity. And so the bias they have is based on the fact that maybe 97% of women in the 50 to 70 age group are so unhealthy and have so many lifestyle diseases. And someone like me comes in and it's like, well, I'm just an abnormality. They don't really know how to take someone like me and apply it to their other patients, because the patient has to want to be healthy. We know that. A woman has to want this and work for it and work through whatever she has to get there. And a lot are not willing, unfortunately.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think, and I can understand why doctors they probably get tired all day long trying to recommend people to change their diet and lifestyle, and nobody does. That's why
Right.
they're like, let's just give them a pill or a medication and see what happens, because the majority of the people will go that way. But it's a real pity that they assume that. It would be nice if they could somehow guide us and give us the option and say, look, if you change your diet and lifestyle, then you'll not have any side effects and probably have a lot of great side benefits, and then hopefully guide you through that. But I know doctors just don't have that much time, but at least offer it on the menu of choices of things that we can do, rather than the quick fix that may have a lot of side effects. So gosh, it's so emotional. I'm just had a little teary moment when you were thinking about the transplant and how you're alive today. And it sounds like, you were pretty close to death, and that really kicked things up. And unfortunately, we're human beings are like that, where we need something taken away from us to appreciate what we have. And so I would encourage, all women to at least try to dive in deep and see what their why is and what their motivation is. And that's what a health coach does, or that's what you do through your programs, is try to dig a little deeper to find that click, that spark. And you're lucky that actually, I don't know, lucky, or if that's just the way it is, that in your 60s to be able to actually have I don't know if it sounds like it was a rapid transformation, because you said it became addictive. The more you did, the better, because when women are going through that menopause transition, the hormones are up and down, and then we lose them. And the loss of estrogen helps us with muscle building, and that helps with burning fat. And that's sort of what gets us through. But when we don't have it, it's really hard. And we may work so hard and not have the results. So was your transformation quite quick? I mean, you see results quickly because you started in your 60s, or something happened when you were on hormone therapy, or
Yeah, it's such great questions. And I love these questions because women that see me on Instagram want to know, what did she do? Can I do what she did? Have you had a tummy tuck? Have you had a facelift? Do you take HRT? Have you had a breast implants? Have you had loose skin removed? And those are all, it used to annoy me. And then I thought, those are valid questions. All they want to know is, when I see you, can I get what you have without a surgeon's knife, without Ozempic shots, without surgery, all this stuff. And it wasn't fast for me. I started working out in April 2019. The first time I picked up a dumbbell, I was this fit, lean woman in my mind, in my soul, in my heart. I was her. So when I looked in the mirror, I was like, not there yet, but she's coming. It was like, I wasn't going to believe that that was my identity. And it took me 3 months to lose the first 10 pounds. Now, most women are going to give up. It's too hard. I don't like this. It's so slow. That's when you have to keep going. And so within a year, I had lost, visually significantly, you could see my body, the inflammation, the fat was lost. Hadn't built a lot of muscle yet. That's taken years. And I'm in my 4.5 years since that April 2019. I don't take HRT. I don't take performance enhancing drugs, which actually a lot of pro bodybuilding women do to gain muscle. I've never had a facelift. I've not had a tummy tuck, loose skin, none of that. I will admit the only thing I've had, and I think a lot of women in our age group have tried it, is facial Botox and minimal fillers. That's it. That's it. And I'll be really honest about that, because I don't want women to think that there's a shortcut. There's no shortcut. It's dedication a new self-identity, making up your mind and doing the new version of you every day, aligning with that, making decisions that are aligned with that. And it's not easy. Like, there's a lot of childhood messages we grew up with that don't serve us and that aren't even true. They're not even true. Like some parent or adult told you you were worthless, or you were stupid, or you were fat, or all of that stuff. You don't have to let it control your life anymore. And that takes work. And that's usually when women self-sabotage on any program where they're just like, I can't do this anymore. It's too hard. I work so hard and I'm not seeing results. It's the little girl in them saying, I'm afraid. And they self-sabotage. It's easier to stay where they are. It's familiar. It's really scary to like move forward, move through those mental blocks. And to me, the fitness journey is a mindset journey. That's my whole approach to helping women 50 plus get fit. It's a path I walk with them. It's not a sprint either. You're not going to see big changes in 3 months. 6, you're going to feel them the first week. That was the thing. People would ask me, well, when did you see changes? And I'd always say, that's kind of the wrong question to ask. I felt changes that first day I started waking up my muscles. And you're going to be consistent, do it day in and day out. Time is going to pass anyway. Don't let a year pass and go, gosh, why didn't I start a year ago? Just do it. It becomes, you start stacking habits and you become this other person, and you're already kick-ass because you're 50 plus. You're a woman, you've got experience, your wisdom, you're so kick-ass. And then you bring your health into it, your body into it, you make that strong. Watch out. It's not about getting a smaller dress size. It's about your health, your longevity. You have so much more to give, and you can't give more if you don't feel well. It's like the metaphor of, you put on your oxygen mask first on an airplane so you can help the person next to you. A lot of times we never put on our oxygen mask.
I love that analogy. I use that one a lot too, especially when you want to help. How can you help if you can't take care of yourself? And I appreciate the transparency as well. I am very transparent about what I do. And I just 3 days ago tried my first time with Profilo, just hyaluronic acid. I was all excited about that because I think it does give women a clue. I would hate to be lying and saying I get this naturally because you're misleading people. Then they can make a decision. Well, I want to invest in that or don't want to invest. And they just watch and go, well, let's see what happens. I'll be the guinea pig.
Yeah.
But I think it helps to be as transparent as possible. We shouldn't be ashamed if we've tried something new or, if you had a facelift, like let people know, at least they can make that decision. And I appreciate that about you too. So what I also would like to ask you about is the, when women, so actually since we're speaking to a lot of women going through this menopause transition, a lot of them are experiencing hot flashes and night sweats and that unexplained weight gain, or nothing's changed. And yet, their diet and their exercise is the same and they just gain weight. How can a woman going through this transition find this motivation like you did? And I also would like to ask you what your menopause transition was like.
Yeah, it's interesting. My menopause transition, I think I started going into menopause around 42, 44. And there were a couple years there where those hot flashes, and I lived in the Midwest at the time, and it would be the dead of winter. It'd be like minus 10 Fahrenheit outside, and we'd be in the car and I'd roll down all the windows, and it was more of a funny thing than, and of course I got insomnia, but here's the thing, Zora, when you've gone through what I've gone through physically, you've had open heart surgery, you've had your abdomen flayed open, you have somebody else's organs in your body. And I've also been really, really ill, where I had an E. coli sepsis and almost died at 27. When you have those things, hot flashes are nothing. Insomnia is like, okay, I can deal with this. And I think that's just part of my ability to accept what's happening to me. A lot of women have been healthy their whole life, and all of a sudden they hit menopause. And like you said, all of a sudden this weight's not going anywhere. They eat the same, they exercise the same, and they're putting on all this weight, and the hot flashes are miserable. And to me, again, it's so much about mindset. It's so much about putting things into perspective. And in a way, I am blessed to have that sort of, gauge of what's really horrible and what's, I can handle this. And so I think that's just part of my nature. The other thing is about menopause, though, is I think women need to realize your body's not broken. There's nothing wrong with your body. It's asking for something different. And it's also the process of, the longer you're in what I call our soul chariot, our body is like a soul chariot. The longer you're in it, the more special care it's going to need. So you can't eat the same things and you can't exercise the same way. And a lot of women are cardio queens. You're not going to lose weight on cardio. You will, but it comes right back. Why? Because you don't have any muscle. Muscle is what's going to give you longevity. It's going to help you burn the food you do eat. So, there's also certain food intolerances we get once we hit menopause. What I found is I can't do dairy. I can't do wheat. And now I'm finding I can't do more than one little cup of coffee a day. I can't do anything with chemicals in it, no Diet Coke. I used to say, and this is my advice to all women, if your body doesn't object, you can get away with it, enjoy it. And, if you like Diet Coke and it doesn't make you sick, don't let someone tell you, oh, that's bad for you. It's your body. You know what's good or bad for your body. When you get a menopause, the rules change. So you have to relearn, what does my body want? Because your body has a lot of intelligence. And one thing I just wanted to add about like HRT and plastic surgery and breast implants and all that, if that makes a woman feel better, I'm all for it. I'm for supporting other women no matter what they decide and not judging. And the only reason I really share my truth about my body is because I don't want women to think they have to do that to look a certain way. And it's really, again, it gets back to your health. And if that's part of your mental health, maybe you didn't have boobs your whole life and you always wanted to like feel more feminine. And so you got breast implants. There's nothing wrong with that, And I think the other thing for me too, hitting menopause was not seeing it as a big deal. And now we are bombarded in the media with, because my mom told me nothing about menopause, right?
Mine
We
neither.
didn't talk
No.
about it. It was like anything to do with the uterus or the vagina was off the table. We're not talking about it,
Yeah.
And so we get to here and we're like, what the hell? Nobody told. And women now are talking about it. They're really being transparent. And they have retreats now and everything for women in menopause. But I think part of it is the learning curve of what's happening to my body. What can I do? But then your level of acceptance that your body's just changing, asking for something different.
It's a transformation. And if we can look at it that way, I think for women going through the transition in their 50s, say, or late early 40s, it's really hard. You have the pressure from the social media. You are not young anymore. You may see wrinkles or gray hair, but you're not old either. So you're really resisting and trying to hang on to that youth until you get to an age that whether you feel, okay, I've accepted it, and we just keep resisting. And I think it's hard. It's really hard. And because we are sort of in that middle transition phase. So we got to take a different mindset and know that it's going to be great on the other side if you're struggling, but also that we have solutions. We don't have to suffer in silence anymore. And this is the message I want to tell women. there are women who have zero symptoms. They're like, I don't know, it was uneventful. And then there are people like you who said, you know, if there's so much worse, it's like nothing. And then you have women who are really struggling.
Mm-mm.
And so there's a whole spectrum out there. But oftentimes, I mean, especially when I didn't know anything about menopause, I thought it was all negative, all bad. We're all going to go through it, and we're all going to have like 50 symptoms all at once. And so I was scared. And that's where a lot of women are. But like you said, we have so much information now online, and women are starting to talk about it. I do these reels of menopause around the world. Wherever I travel, I look for women to share their experience. And I've met plenty of women who say, oh, no, I'm not going to talk about
Oh, wow.
menopause. I don't even talk about it with my friends. So,
Mm.
let alone a stranger. And it's really, it's a personal, intimate thing, and they don't want to talk about it. And that's always kind of surprises me, because I live in a little bubble where I think we're all quite, the people I interview are open about talking about it. But there are plenty of women out there who still have a stigma, or it's taboo to talk about. And I hope really through the work that I do and work that you do, and all the amazing women who are trying to make it normalized will eventually get there, and will have information. It's like puberty, you're like, I don't know, all I know is going to bleed when I get my period, and what else is going to happen? We don't know about all the other things, right? Because your mother
Yeah.
certainly didn't talk to you about it, unless you're one of those lucky ones. But most of my friends, and myself included, your mom doesn't really talk to you about that. So we're changing that with menopause. One other thing I wanted to appreciate about what you spoke is to focus on optimal health, being healthy. And it's so hard. I've spoken to weight loss experts who say that the reality is they still want to look good in a dress or in a bikini, or they want to be comfortable with their body. And I try to shift the focus with my clients, or when I'm interviewing people, is not weight loss, because it's just a number on a scale. And you and I both know you can have zero change in the scale, but a total body transformation where you have more muscle and you have better body composition. So I try to change the focus to women, especially around this age, on focus on muscle building, strength and power, being independent, and all of this. Because as we age, and if we're losing our muscle mass, then we won't be able to carry our groceries up a flight of stairs, and we won't be independent. We'll have to ask people to help us. And I think as we age, we just want to be as independent as we possibly can for as long as we can. So focusing on that, not looking at a number on the scale, is so key. And that's part of the mindset. And I know you have other mindset, you always start with the mindset. Everything I've heard you talk about is mindset. So what would be the one tip for a woman going through menopause right now who's struggling with their weight, how to change that mindset?
I would say learn to love yourself. Learn to love your body as it is now. And of course, okay, women, period. We like to look good. We like to glam. Most of us, I think, have a glam side. We like to feel sexy and vital and feel confident in our body, because we remember what it was like when we felt that way when we were younger. And there's nothing wrong with having that in your treasure chest of dreams. This is what I want. But if it's the only goal you have, it's the only thing you're going for, it's got an end date. A number on a scale, you get there, then what? Then what do you do? So when you make health your goal, and you work with the concept of really loving your body now, think of all it's done for you. Women that have children, that still astounds me, that the female body can bring life into the world. It gives birth. And women who haven't given birth, and I'm one of them, we give birth to other things. We are just creative beings. And I think that appreciating who you are as a woman, individual, your experience, everything you've done, given, everything, appreciating that. And a lot of us were not taught to do that either. Our mothers didn't have self-esteem. They couldn't teach it to us. They didn't talk about menopause. We don't want to talk about menopause. We get so many messages from mom. And if you have a hard time with self-love, try self-worthiness. I'm worthy. And you are enough. That's the other message. I'm not enough. I've got to try so hard and prove myself and all of this because maybe they were rejected by their mother or a parent figure or whatever, and always looking for approval. And so dealing with those kinds of things, just objectively and subjectively, the hidden message is, I love myself enough to take care of myself. You know what I ask myself several times a day? Even now, maybe 2 or 3 times a day, I'll say, well, what's the most loving thing I can do for myself right now? And sometimes it's like, okay, I'm going to go do my 30 walk cardio outside because it's beautiful. Or I'm going to make sure the next meal I eat, I'm going to weigh everything and stick to what my program is. I mean, it's just, you are the most important person in your world. You're your best friend. You've got to take care of yourself. And it's a mindset shift. It is. It's a mindset shift. And when your goal is health, it's an ongoing journey. You don't get to an end point. You just keep going because you have to maintain the health. If it's just weight loss, yeah, you can get there. High cardio, low carb, sure, you can do that. We've all done that. And then you get to the end and you're like, oh, okay, made the number. And then you start eating normally and all that weight comes back with more. And you're like, what the hell happened? The process was off. The diet industry knows women want to be beautiful, want to look great, be in a slim body. So they throw out the quickest, fastest way to do that that's unsustainable because that's repeat business for them. It's like a profit strategy cycle, you know? And now we're finding, no, building muscle is the key. And you get fat loss and weight loss and a banging body as a side effect, but that's not your goal. And then you get amazing health. And some women are going to feel better. Like you can see those weight charts. Some women are going to feel better with 10 or 20 extra pounds on them. And they've got curvy, gorgeous bodies. Other women like to be much more fit and muscular, but you never want to go down to an unhealthy body fat. And I think bodybuilding presents this picture of women, when you see them on stage, even my stage pictures, I don't walk around every day like that. I'm 10 pounds up from my last competition. I'm rounder. I'm not as hard. I don't look as shredded. You can't be that way all the time. It's not healthy. So women are afraid of food. They're afraid of carbs. They're afraid of weightlifting. And my message is start doing your research and you'll find out that you don't need to be afraid of any of that. And you don't need to also be afraid of aging. You don't have to be afraid of aging. If you're healthy, there's no reason to be afraid of aging.
I love that. You mentioned as well, ageless. You know, you talk about being ageless. So what does ageless mean to you?
Oh, I love that question. I love that question. So the body to me is a soul chariot. So my basic belief system includes, and it came out of, well, I've always been a very spiritual person, I have to say. I've always wondered about the invisible side of life. I've always had a very deep relationship with God, the divine, the creator, whatever you want to call it. It's just this heart thing I feel. And when I was 26, 27 in my first marriage, which lasted 10 and a half months, and I just heard this phrase the other day, he was my husband. I used to say my practice husband. Now I say he was my husband. But anyway, it was a miserable time in my life. And I got really sick. In a way, I thought I brought it on because I didn't want to be in the marriage. Diabetes was out of control. I was living in New York City, very unhappy. And I got E. coli sepsis. The E. coli got in my blood. And I was in a hospital that couldn't diagnose me for 4 days. I had pneumonia. I had an out of the body experience in that hospital, just classic out of the body. And I won't go into the details. I do talk about it in my book, but what it gave me when I came back to my body, because I was asked, do you want to go or do you want to stay? There were these presences, there was this light, there was this incredible love. And I thought of my sister who just had a baby. And that was like, boom, I was right back in my body. But even when I was leaving my body, because I'd said to God right before I left, or right before that experience, I said, I knew how sick I was. I knew I was hanging by a thread. I was like this, just holding on to the physical, like white knuckle grip. And I got tired. And I was just like, I don't want to do this anymore. I was in a bad marriage. I lived in New York, a lot of pressure. I was sick with diabetes, everything. And I said to God, if it's my time, I'm ready to go. And I immediately lifted out of my body. I guess I am going to tell this story, and floated into this space of such huge expansion and love. And I remember thinking, oh, so this is dying. It was amazing. So after that experience, and there's a lot more to it, and I came back to my body and I got well. I mean, it took me 2 months to get out of the hospital, out of the ICU. It took me a year to come back to reality. I felt like I was an alien on an alien planet, like I don't belong here. This isn't my home. What I found was I was never afraid of dying. I was afraid of living. I was afraid of being hurt. I was afraid of being abandoned. I was afraid of being rejected. And I think a lot of us have these feelings of that. So the whole idea of us being soul in a human body is my perspective. To me, that's everything. So our thoughts and our emotions also drive our behavior. You can change your life by changing your thoughts and your feelings. You can make that choice. But so often we get into this pattern of habitual thinking, habitual complaining, habitual nothing's right. And what happens? Doors don't open, we don't change. Part of it is we're scared to change. We're comfortable with what's familiar. And I think that was the biggest change for me in this life, was to realize I'm not my body. I'm not. None of us are. And when I meet people, it's like that Hindu, or I don't know where the phrase comes from, namaste, which means the God in me recognizes the God in you. It's that connection with other human beings. And again, to really fulfill why I feel like I'm here and still alive, I have to feel good. I have to have the energy, to get up every morning and just keep going, because I'm so full of joy and gratitude and happiness. That's a thought form. That's a thought pattern, and that affects the choices I make.
You've got such wise words of wisdom, and you share a lot of this in your book as well, because you tell your story, then you have some reflections on life and what that happened to you, and then you give some tips on journaling and the how-tos, and it's super inspirational. It's a nice easy read, in the sense that you learn something about your life, and then how can we apply it to our own lives. So I'm curious to know how you even came about the reflection and these words. Did you have any kind of guidance or therapy to help you through all these crazy challenges that you've had? Like, it's not normal what you've gone through. It's ultra difficult and ultra hard. And to get into this mindset of positivity or to learn something from it is not easy. So did you do this on your own, or did you have any guidance with it?
Yeah, I feel like my spiritual search has really helped me. So I've relied a lot on a divine source of wisdom to guide me. So I have a spiritual practice, of contemplation. It's a form of meditation every day. And after my divorce, when I got out of the hospital and was back with this first husband, who was, just really, he was abusive, and got out of that marriage, I did go into therapy for a year. And I had to figure out, why do I keep attracting men like this? And, the common denominator was me. I didn't have the self-love and self-esteem. I didn't feel like I deserved the kind of love that I now get from my husband of 34 years, who's just a magnificent being and so giving and loving. I needed to see that I was worth that kind of love before I could meet anybody that would give me that kind of love. And That's the other thing I think for women, it's finances, health, and relationships are the three big areas of life that we want to have peace and comfort and whatever, but it all starts with us inside. And so I did have help. I have help every day from a source that isn't me. Do you know what I mean? It's like I really trust my inner voice, my inner guidance. I rely on a higher power. And a lot of people do. And there's different names for the divine or God or whoever, so many different paths and religions. And, you know, when I talk about my experience, I make sure to leave like really a lot of room that someone could fit their belief system to that and not feel like, oh, she's promoting this, that, or the other. It's like, no, I would never get in the middle of somebody's relationship with the divine. That is too personal. But I know I have to give credit to that source, whatever you want to call it, God or the creator or the divine. That's helped me through everything. And maybe that's why as a child, I just kept pushing through because there was some other presence with me that the message was, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. I never felt like I was going to go under. I never felt like I was like a buoy on the ocean and the waves were really high, but I just kept bouncing up. I never went under the water. And I still feel that way, is that it's all going to be okay. It's all going to be okay. And that gives me a tremendous amount of inner peace. And I love helping other women find that within themselves too. So I call myself a mindset coach as well. I don't want to be a guru. I'm not like a healer or anything like that. I'm from the Midwest. We're totally common sense. You're from the Midwest. So I just share my experience and hope that what I share, someone can take and say, oh, I could fit that into my belief system. Oh, I understand that works for me. And then I also encourage people to, what doesn't work for them, don't just drop it, leave it. You don't have to, do everything. And everybody's so individual. That's the other thing. Not only spiritually, mentally, but your body is so individual. So there's no one size fits all. I mean, I can't do keto diets at all. They make me sick. I've been in the hospital from doing keto. Other women, they might have epilepsy and keto helps them with their, I mean, there's such a wide range of what works for people. And to say, no, you have to do this. No, you have to do that. It just puts people in a prison, and then they don't feel like they have any agency or any, ability to make their own decisions. And that's where we're powerful as women. We do have that ability to make decisions that are impactful, not just for us, but everybody around us, our families, at work, our circle of friends. We have so ability to have so much impact. I think that's powerful.
It
Like
is very
you are,
powerful.
Sarah,
Yes.
with your podcasts.
It's amazing. I'm just blown away by your words, and you really are truly blessed to at least have that drive to seek out spirituality, or to have that inner experience. Your experience, out of body experience, is insane, but that could certainly bump someone into a belief system that something is out there. But it can, considering all of the challenges that you had with losing your sister, I had 6, and she was only 6 years old. And how can you believe there's a God out there if, here she's taken away from you? So with all that challenge, I can understand that mindset as a child. Like it's a blessing that you still had faith and go, okay, well, maybe there's here something for a reason, instead of just go, you know what, the world is just a mess and I'm giving up. So credit to you for keep getting that mindset and finding that spirituality. But I want to get back to the self-love. It's I've heard a lot of people say that as well, where let's just love ourselves as we are. And it sounds like it's easier said than done. And you don't like your thighs, or you don't like your belly fat, and you're disappointed with yourself. Is there any practical tip that someone could use today in terms of how to find that self-love?
Yeah. I have the women I work with in the very beginning write a love letter to their body. And I have them write a love letter to those body parts they've hated on the most. And what have they given you? And what have they done for you? Especially when you've hit 50, you've had several decades of life, you've maybe birthed children, you've traveled, what have these body parts given you? But it's really writing a love letter to your body. And the first letter might be a letter of complaint. It might be getting it out, like why you hate your thighs or why you hate your stomach, and really finding out, what it is that embedded that in you. And it usually comes down to something of, again, from childhood where we weren't accepted or we were rejected or we were told a certain message. And, it embedded in our cellular structure and in our mind. And I think one of the things I do want to say is that I have had periods where I wanted to give up. Like after my marriage, when I got E. coli sepsis, I was looking for a doorway out of this life, period. I wasn't suicidal, but sometimes I think people get so down about their life, their body gets so sick that they actually will themselves not to live. So that is a very real thing. And I think that this what you just asked about, practical tips about loving your body. I know it sounds like a platitude, a cliche, and I hate cliches. Oh, just love your body. Well, to do that, you have to work through why you don't love your body. So I have a thing about my lower abdomen. I'm self-conscious about it when I'm not in contest prep and it's pretty flat. And I'm in the off season. That's the first thing to kind of bloat out a little bit. And because my transplanted organs are in that part of my body, I'm very self-conscious about it. And sometimes I wonder, why am I self-conscious about this? And if I really look at it, it's really from comments my mom made to me when I was a teenager and started my period and started gaining weight from a 11-year-old, 12-year-old diabetic. I weighed 60 pounds when I was 12 because of the diabetes. And within, I don't know, it was a couple of years, I gained 40 pounds because I got my period. And so it's like those messages are still in there and I still have to recognize them and say, I don't accept that. I don't accept that. There's nothing wrong with my body. It's beautiful. It's done so much for me. It's gone through so much. So I think it's appreciating it, stepping back and looking at your body and appreciating. So many women also, Zora, in our age group have had breast cancer and maybe went through early menopause because of the chemo or ovarian, whatever they've had. So many women, these are strong women. And then they get breast reconstruction. And, there's just a way to recondition how you feel about your body. And we were not taught that in this era of women, boomer women and a little younger. We weren't taught we were objectified, sexualized. I mean, no wonder we're confused. So you got to be the expert on why your body's friggin' amazing and beautiful. And don't let anybody tell you it's not. And I'm an artist. I paint, I do portraits. I have to say that I've never met a woman that I thought was ugly. Every woman has the most, face, body. We're all so unique. We're like works of art, but we were not taught to look at ourselves that way. And then the beauty ideals that are out there. One thing I realized in the 70s, do you remember Cheryl Tiegs?
Of course.
Thin lips, right? Really
Yeah.
thin lips, straight blonde hair, white, white, white. She was right after the civil rights movement. And I think she was the antithesis of Black beauty. And that was the beauty ideal, the antithesis of Black beauty, which was, full lips and curly hair and dark skin, gorgeous. And it was really coming up. Black is beautiful. Black is beautiful. And then the whole fashion industry and the whole advertising and beauty industry is all about the Eurocentric kind of beauty of thin lips. I mean, to me, it was so obvious that, and I think now today, hopefully, and younger people recognize all forms of beauty in skin color, culture, hair texture, body size. That makes me really happy, because the beauty ideals have also screwed with a lot of our thinking about why we're not good enough.
You're right. And there's a lot more diversity now than there was before. There's still much more room for improvement, but at least we're starting to see a little spark of that. And I think that's going in the right direction. I like how the mindset of, I love the journaling. I think that's a great idea, is to write a letter to your body. I sometimes tell my clients to treat themselves like a 5-year-old, or like their 5-year-old self, right? In terms of their body is their temple. So treat it with respect, but also you wouldn't tell your 5-year-old or tell your 5-year-old self, you're ugly, you're horrible, or you're worthless. I mean, you wouldn't say that. So why would you say it to yourself? So I think you're right in pulling yourself out of your body and sort of looking at it from a different perspective, and give it that love and attention, and treat it and put it to bed at night, and stop you wouldn't let your 5-year-old over on the phone all night long until 2 a.m. So don't let yourself do that either, in terms of getting night's sleep, right? So, okay. Gosh, we've talked to so much, and I know I have to let you go now. So, but before I do, is there one other question is why, because I wanted to ask you this, why are you so passionate about helping women 50 plus to transform their bodies and minds?
Because I think that life is a gift and you don't want to waste it. And I am a woman that walked a certain path, and I feel like I cracked the code on the health part in terms of how to finally get fit. And I love people, and I love women. I love the whole girlfriend sisterhood thing. I've lived all over the world, and I have friends in Africa, Asia, Saudi Arabia, Europe, Mexico, everywhere, women that I've bonded with. We all want the same things. They're beautiful souls to me in a female body. And I just feel like it's our turn. It's your turn to just live your best life, believe the best you can about yourself. Honestly, we're just so powerful. And I want to see other women realize that within themselves. I'm really big on women supporting women. There's some real, unfortunate comments that I get, and women that I follow that are famous, that I see what they get, and I just think, what is it that we're missing here? Women need to band together. We're more powerful together. And I just love having friends, girlfriends, sisterhood. We have so much in common to share. And I really think we're here to serve. I don't think life is just the big get. We're here to give and receive. And I get a lot of pleasure out of giving. And I love seeing people transform. I love helping women transform. I think transformation is an amazing concept, whether it's renovating a house or renovating your body. It's like, I love that stuff. So if I can be a part of that, and I can help another woman get to a higher level within herself through her work, just show her what I did. This is what I did, coach her through it, but she does it. Gosh, that makes me really happy. It really does. So it's very fulfilling.
It is fulfilling to see the work that's done, and then the final result too. So you do have some coaching programs online. I saw your website, bodybeautylovelife.com. And anything you want to share with us about that program?
Yeah, I have I have an automated masterclass that's online, and I also have a fitness community of women 50 plus that's like a monthly membership, cancel anytime, at 2 different levels. And then I do have my Fabulous After 50 Blueprint program, which is it's a larger community of women, and I do live streams twice a month and coaching, and we do check-in forms. You get your nutrition plan, and all my exercises are on an app, and it's me doing them. So it's
Awesome.
not like a 25-year-old kid on YouTube.
YouTube.
Yeah, so those are on my website, and someone could just message me and ask as well. I'm always happy to talk to somebody on Zoom and find out what their vision is for their body, where they are. And sometimes in those calls, I just know immediately what's not working immediately. And I'm just so happy to help women, change their body, because the real transformation is in your heart and your mind. That's the real transformation. Even though you are changing your body, you really change way more where nobody's going to see it. It's inside. It's an amazing transformation. And I never expected that. And that's probably another reason, like, I love to coach. I didn't expect to get that inner boost that I got in terms of how I approach life, the way I think, what my vision is for the future. So that's been really powerful.
I love it. It's not just transforming the body, it's transforming the mind. And I've learned so much from you. If anybody wants to try the programs, I'll have links in the show notes, and the links to the book, Five Mistakes. No, the Power, My Power Decade Mindset. That one is the one I read, and I just absolutely loved it. If I have the Power Decade word, I'll have a link to that. And you have a free ebook for us, the 5 mistakes women make that keep them from looking and feeling fabulous after 50, and how to fix all of them forever, step by step. So
Right.
yeah, it's a long title, but I'll have a link to that also in the show notes, as well as how to find you dolphinine, like the dolphin swimming in the sea. And you're on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube, and you're kind of much everywhere. So I will have links to that, as well as your email, and how people can get in touch with you there. So before I let you go, are there any last words for a woman going through menopause?
Yeah, it's all going to be okay. It's all going to be okay. Just keep going. Just keep going. Love yourself, breathe, treat yourself well, because you are a role model. You are a role model. And many women that transform, it does happen in menopause, because they realize, I don't want my body to look or feel this way. And what you do is, you might even be breaking generational trauma in your family of obesity and being unhealthy. So it's a wake-up call. Menopause is a wake-up call. How can I treat my body better? So start your research and, find the ways, because you're unique, and you're going to find your own way, and it's going to be the best way for you.
Oh, I'd love that. Well, thank you so much, Julia, for giving your time and your wisdom. We have to have you on again. I really enjoy speaking with you, and you do
I'd love
just,
to.
I love it. So have a wonderful day, and everybody who's listening or watching, have a good day, good night, good morning, wherever you guys are. Take care.
Yeah. Thank you, Sora. Thank you so much.